I'm Daniel Montgomery here for our Making of the Daily Show panel with the Emmy nominees behind the Comedy Central series. I'm joined by host and member of the news team, Desi Lydic, supervising producer and writer David Kibuuka, director and supervising producer David Paul Meyer, producer Brittany Radocha, and editor Cathy Trasborg. The show is the defending champ for Best Variety Talk Series at the Emmys. So first off, what did it mean to all of you when the show won that? Let's start with Desi.
Oh my gosh, it was we were all pretty shocked, right? I can safely say it was the most wonderful surprise of all time. Yeah, I think we were all just in complete utter shock for months after. I think we still are a little bit. But the team worked so incredibly hard, and that year in particular, we were kind of coming off of many changes, the pandemic happening and working from home for such a long time, and then coming back to our studio. And so, like, I think all of those evolutions of the show were just a testament to how great everyone is at their jobs there. And to be able to be recognized in that way at that time in particular, and with it being Trevor's last year, I mean, it was incredible, really special.
David Paul Meyer.
No, it was a thrill to win, and I would definitely say just like a great sort of exclamation point on Trevor's run and what the building had achieved working with him on the show. And yeah, even going back like further, like myself and him, also Kibuuka, who goes back, like we have a history even before the show. And so it was like a cool just sort of journey with Trevor, from like meeting him first time in South Africa to them being up on the stage at the Emmys with him and the whole team. And just great people to be able to share that moment with.
David Kibuuka.
Um, uh, well, I echo what they say, but also there was that whole experience of, when you're nominated for awards, you're like, you can't win this award. You're just going to make up the numbers, like whatever. So and so's got it wrapped up. And then as they go on stage to announce the award, at some point, it's like with lottery numbers. At some point, you're like, wait a minute, we could win this award. I mean, we don't know who's in that envelope, but normally, they pull out, then they give the name, and then you're like, well, I guess, for 2 seconds there, we thought we could. And then this time it was like, oh, our name has been called. And I think there was like, to echo what they say, there was a wonderful, wonderful, like, reward for all of the work that we had done, but also in terms of that experience of like getting your lotto numbers, your lottery numbers. So it had that extra like experience of, yes, we are winners. We did it. Is this real? Is it real? We're waiting for candid camera. No, so one of them.
Brittany.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, it was such a surreal moment. And I think making the Daily Show is just such a grind sometimes, a good grind. I love working with all these people. But we just kind of have our head down every day, just like, what's the news? How are we covering it? What jokes are we going to make about it? We make a show every night, and it's just like, okay, on to the next one, on to the next one. And especially getting some of those curveballs that Desi was mentioning, like thrown at us, like it was just like, all right, what are we doing now? How are we doing this? And so just to have that moment to kind of just like come up for air a little bit and be able to enjoy that moment and just like savor all of that work that we've done. Especially just, I remember looking around and seeing like Desi's face and DPM and David. And it was just like really, truly like a magical moment.
And Cathy.
Yeah, just mimicking or echoing what everyone else said. It was very exciting and surreal and well-deserved, just all the hard work we put into every day, every single person on the show, especially during Trevor's run. He did such an amazing job. To get that recognition was well-deserved and surreal to see everyone up there on stage accepting it. And like Kibuuka was saying, like the couple minutes beforehand, you're always like, it could happen, it could happen. And for it to actually happen was amazing and again, well deserved.
Now, after Trevor Noah left, Desi, as you mentioned, the show went through changes and, guest hosts, and eventually the news team, started rotating as hosts. How did the show ultimately land on that hosting format that it's in now, Desi?
Well, I think we all kind of threw our hands up in the air and went, Coach, if you need us, put us in. And before, I know for me personally, it was like before I could think about it too hard and talk myself out of it. And we had an opportunity to test it out and try solo hosting and try duo hosting. And we had this really fun year of bringing in outside talent and comedians to come in and make a show. And I think what we got out of that, aside from really like testing the bandwidth and the challenges of making a show every night and being able to do it in a unique voice each week, it was unbelievable to watch the entire staff and crew do that for everyone every week. But I think what we got out of it was going like, oh, it's really cool to get to hear a different perspective from time to time, because John has a different lens that he sees the world through than I might have, than Jordan might has, than Ronnie. And so we realized we were kind of having the time of our lives doing it. And I think Jen Flans had a vision for implementing that and making that happen. So we're all just eternally grateful that we're getting to do that this year.
Jon Stewart returned to the show earlier this year, once a week for the election year. How has it been working with him? It's been almost a decade since he originally stepped down from hosting the show full time. What's that transition and that working relationship been like, David Paul?
Yeah, I mean, it was my first time working with him, so I wasn't here at the show when he was there previously. I came in with Trevor, and it's it's been a real like style of performance. Like Trevor and I had a shorthand, from we could read each other's minds and stuff a little bit, and there was that sort of familiarity night in, night out, working with him from like a very long relationship. So to be able to have this new sort of experience with John, even though he's been at the show before, and I watched the show quite a bit when he was on. I was a huge fan. I started watching, I think, the first year John hosted. But to be able to work with him, it's been special. He's you see like his brilliance, you see the way that he performs the script, but also has sort of like a running monologue in his head that he's also sort of jumping back and forth in and out of in terms of his performance. And that's been really fun to learn and work with. And I would say also, just to expand it to having all the hosts we have each week, the news team, with Desi and Jordan, Michael, and Ronnie, they all have their own way that they perform and execute the script. And so getting to do that now and build up experience with them and follow their lead and learning their rhythm has been a lot of fun. For me, a great challenge and very exciting to get to be in the seat calling the show as each one of them does their thing.
David Kibuuka?
Well, the great thing about John is that he's like, when you work with artists, you're like, it's hardly ever that you work with the sort of like not the finished article, but with like a grandmaster kind of situation, You're like, because he did this for so long, he's like the founder of this in some sort of way. So all of a sudden you are, you're hustling and you're trying to figure things out and, experiment, do all those kind of things that you're always doing. And there's a certain amount of stress that comes with trying to figure things out. And then John steps in and he's like, well, I've done this a million times before. I know exactly, go left, it's gonna work, go right, it's gonna work, that kind of thing. So I've really enjoyed soaking in his years of experience in like he's like done it all before, knows everything. He almost can like think about what you are thinking about, if you know what I mean. So that has been a very, it's cool to become a student again. And that's been very enjoyable.
Brittany?
I mean, it's been a dream come true. I was at the show with John for a few years. His first time around. It was my first job out of college. And so I always had a special place in my heart for John because it always felt like he created this home that I have just like come to love over the past years. Like the Daily Show really does feel like my home. And so when I took this job out of college, it was like I'm learning how to make television, and I'm learning how to make television from Jon Stewart. And that was just like it was like hit the ground running, here you go. And when he left, I think I was like maybe a production coordinator or something. And now that he's returned and I'm a producer, it's like I have had so many years working with everyone on this panel, learning how to make a show, getting better at the craft of producing. Trevor was amazing in that he gave us all so many opportunities to learn and grow. And then, you know, with the guest host era and everything that came along, it's like we kind of had to roll with the punches. And it all made us so much better at what we do every day. And so having John back in the seat and then having our news team there, which is like, again, like it feels like home, has been like, it's kind of come full circle. And now it feels like, all right, here we go. Let's go.
Cathy?
Yeah, it's been exciting to have John come on. I started on the show when Trevor was there, so it was intimidating to work with Trevor, and now another added intimidation of working with John, but he really makes the show his own when he's at the desk. And the days that he's there, we're really breaking down those news shots, editing things, very short news rolls. He breaks things down in between, tells the story, adds the jokes in, and he keeps us on our toes. But every day at the Daily Show in the news keeps us on our toes. But it's been very exciting.
Desi?
I mean, they always say never meet your heroes. And I like to say meet your hero and immediately get on his payroll. And I would say it's worked out pretty well so far. I mean, I was a huge Daily Show fan for many, many years before I ever had the shot at being on the show. So I watched John all through my 20s and was a huge admirer of his. So now to get to watch him not only perform every Monday night, but to watch the process from the initial morning meeting and the ideas that he comes in with, and to see his perspective and his process throughout the rehearsal, and then shaping the show from rehearsal to the actual show itself. Like, I feel like I'm getting the masterclass of a lifetime. And then to be able to learn from him and absorb all of that information and then have something to apply it to every week is really, really cool. He's just the best.
David Paul, you're specifically nominated for directing the Jon Stewart Returns to the Daily Show episode. What made you enter that one in for awards consideration?
Well, there was certainly a few reasons. I mean, one, I think, look, I mean, it's obvious. It was a moment in TV history, the guy coming back, you know, that is, you cannot understate that. Like that is kind of unprecedented. And, you know, it was blowing our minds when we learned that he was going to be doing it. And there's just a marker there for that I think, like with television and the institution of the Daily Show, and that the last few years, especially, for that to be something that comes, you know, between the time Trevor did his last episode and when John came back, just that whole path to that happening, and just the bigger sort of lens of what the Daily Show is in that institution. Yeah, I mean, that's can't be understated from the bigger, you know, high view of of why I did it, but also like from a more specific to the episode, featured our whole news team. Everybody was in that episode. So, and I think the thing that we really keep emphasizing with this, and John and everybody else who hosts and the staff and everything, this is the era of the show where it is the news team that is doing the show, that is hosting the show. And so I felt like that episode was sort of emblematic of what we're doing in every episode. It's the theme of a news team and doing it together. And so I loved that show had that and featured everybody. Also just the challenges, breaking it down even further, the specifics of, full team coverage where everybody's on location. In that instance, they were all in different parts of a diner, essentially, the infamous diner that basically drives elections, because that's where the real people are. And the whole coverage was about who's in the realer America section of the diner. And there's a whole Ronnie and like eating food bit that, yeah, exactly. That's how Desi was in the actual thing too. Like you really had to keep it all in. Desi, it was you were fighting for your life, not to just totally.
I loved it. There was food flying everywhere. Yeah. I mean, that was no easy feat, DPM.
Yeah, no, it was.
You really went in on that.
It was so fun, and they're all there. We're all on the set together, but we're all sort of navigating. How do you shoot that? How do you move people in and out? How do you block that? How do you, we have multiple green screens going. We have all these cameras involved. We have, just even the physical. I think some things that a lot of times with news, you just think, oh, well, they're just standing there. But like, if you watch like the choreography of like Desi and Ronnie in particular, like that is actual, like, that's not easy to do, and to make it look effortless. Even the way like Desi had like a bit with a shirt where she had a, like, all those things, you're like, when I'm in the chair calling it, I'm like holding my breath. It's like, I hope that tape peels off perfectly but Desi always nails that stuff anyway. I've worked with her long enough to know, but like all of there's like a very big choreography happening behind the scenes with like the production of it and how to make it come off seeming seamlessly. And then not even to mention like all the writing that's involved, and you're having to now write for everyone's voice and everyone's comedic style and trying to make that all come together to be funny and have a great point, like a great commentary on like how elections are covered and sort of the circus of it all. And I just felt like the show we really nailed it and showcased our whole news team in this sort of momentous, episode of John returning. It was great. It was kind of almost a no-brainer, to be honest with you, to submit that one for me.
Desi, you're also nominated for Fox Explains. Where did the idea for those segments originate? And did you expect when you first did it that it would have caught on and you'd still be doing it like regularly?
Definitely not. Absolutely not. But I love those segments. I love doing them so much. I think, unfortunately, mis and disinformation and the idea of weaponizing media is not going anywhere anytime soon. Talking about Fox News and critiquing Fox News and reacting to it is nothing new to The Daily Show. I mean, John did it so beautifully for so many years. But I think a few years back, we were looking to talk about the absurdity and the mental gymnastics that Fox News sort of spews out. And we wanted to figure out a way to embody it rather than just sort of like having commentary on it. And the idea came from our incredible digital team to shoot this refillable segment. And it just so happened that we had just COVID happen and we were now working from home, and all I had was an iPhone and a ring light and awesome script writers. And so we decided, okay, let's just wing it. Let's try to film this thing at home against my apartment wall with an iPhone. And those writers wrote the hell out of the first installment, and we filmed it. And then we went, oh wait, this is actually this kind of works for this segment because this woman has just ingested an inhumane amount of Fox News and she can't even leave her apartment to go get the word out. Like, she doesn't have the time to put up a professional set. She's just got to like shout it and vomit it into her iPhone to get the word out as quickly as possible. And we had so much fun with it. And the team works so hard to make those. They happen so quickly. They write them generally within 45 minutes. I take a look at it for 20 minutes. We shoot it in maybe less than an hour. It's edited within the hour, and then we put it out. It all happens within the course of maybe 24 hours. So our team works really, really hard on those segments, and they're an absolute blast to do.
Brittany, can you talk about maybe best variety series, variety talk series? What episode was submitted for the show? Was that also the Jon Stewart return episode?
It was. And of course, I mean, I'll echo what DPM said a little bit, but it kind of does feel like a no-brainer. It's a moment in history. Just to have Jon on there and the entire news team. I mean, it's so fun when we get the whole news team together. It's great to see our news team behind the desk individually. And then the cherry on top is always when we get to see them interacting with each other, when we get the entire team in one episode. And it just speaks to how much talent we have on the show. I mean, our news team is growing. We've added three new people this year, Troy, Grace, and Josh, who have been just amazing additions to the show. It's been just amazing to see our news team turn on the host part of it all. But yeah, it seems like a great way to encapsulate what is the Daily Show. We've got election coverage, we've got full team coverage, and just so much talent to boot. So yeah.
Cathy, your editing nomination for the show is for the daily showography of Vivek Ramaswamy Entered the Ramaverse. How did that piece come together in the editing room?
Yeah, that one was exciting. The biofilms for the editors are kind of like our comedic entry into the world of documentary. Each of those films we try to bring a different creative approach to, and for the Vivek film, the writers wanted to go with a Marvel multiverse feel. So the producer on the piece, Juliet, and I had discussions of how we could make that multiverse vision happen. We're really starting from scratch on it, having to pull things from Getty, AP, news sources, figuring out what comedic visuals work with what we're saying, what's kind of ironic to see as we're saying it. For the multiverse feel, the Harvard and Yale visuals, we used visuals that look similar, like this aerial view of Harvard and Yale, and then broke it up with this creative quick frame multiverse, streaming lights, other visuals of Vivek's worlds in between those visuals. Did it again later in the piece with the different presidents. Who was he mimicking? Which one was it going to be? Clinton, Bush? Turns out he was mimicking our most recent ones, Trump and Obama. And pulling the music for it was really fun too, just to match that Marvel universe feel, bring the viewer into that feel, and really kind of spoof off of that, and just kind of matching what they do in the Marvel multiverse and in Everything Everywhere All at Once, kind of just makes it funny to actually do what they're doing, and then add our amazing writers' talent to it and the producers' talent to it. Just makes it very funny to watch, I think.
That piece was so good. That one it literally made me go into Cathy's office and tell her to just, she's making the rest of us look bad, and could you calm down a little bit, because it was so ridiculously
Yeah, will you calm down, Cathy? Gosh.
Like I was just
It's
like,
so
you're making us
good.
look bad here. What's going on? It was
No, I
truly
think
incredible.
Kathy, I appreciate you. I say keep at it because you're making the talent look good, way better
Well,
than you deserve.
Desi is amazing. So great at her voiceovers. Truly, it just makes the piece too. Yeah.
All you, all you.
Now, the show, of course, requires keeping up with breaking news, and on occasion, breaking news sort of affects the show itself, like, the Republican National Convention, the assassination attempt, and sort of pivoting back to the studio instead of being on the ground for the RNC. What were those days like from a production standpoint, having to pivot back to the regular studio, like at the last minute? David Kibuuka?
Well, fortunately, Trump has been around for quite some time. So remember in the first rodeo, he would do it more often, And so we got a lot of training when it came to like changing things instantaneously, like almost like the Biden era, apart from the fact that we had to work with a lot of guest hosts, was quite boring in terms of there were no like emergencies that were happening. So I feel like when breaking news happens, I feel like we are like, well, this is what we do, It makes us feel one, alive, but we don't. It's what we do. So so I actually personally enjoy it when something happens because then we know that people are going to. You don't know how who's going to shine on that particular day, who's going to come with a quick take, who's going to come with a quick joke, how we're going to frame it. It's a lot more exciting. So I would say that the show, it's the opposite way. How do we keep it going when nothing is happening? If that makes any sense. When things are happening, then we are like, then we shine.
I just have to give our entire production team a major shout out because pivoting, like that team was planning the RNC shows for a year in the making, and we had our theater and we had everything ready to go. People were really working hard. I mean, DPM was there testing the shots, and unfortunately the circumstances were a little out of our control and we did have to pivot. Shooting the shows there just weren't going to be entirely feasible with the security situation changing. And the way that everyone just rallied and clicked into gear in a moment's notice and brought the shows back to New York to be back on the air on Tuesday was incredible. And then John led the way. Ronnie followed up with an incredible show. Jordan did a live show that night. And so, it's times like that when, maybe I'm a little biased from time to time because these people are my family, but I'm just like so in awe at how everyone just clicks in and makes it happen.
David, Paul, what was that like from your end?
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, to echo what's been said, there was a lot of preparation that went into the RNC, and like we were there ready to make it happen. But that first episode, we were back that Tuesday when John was on. It was just one of those things where logistically, what made sense the most for us to do was make the show back in New York, in terms of the best version of the show that we can do. And I just think, seeing the crew, that we have the best crew in the business, and they get after it, whatever the project is, whatever something changes, like they completely can switch gears and, do whatever the new goal is. And that's what happened. And everybody just did a great job pivoting and figuring out what's the best show that we can make right now, given these things that are beyond our control. And everybody came together and did that. And it was something, like I said, we did a live show that week. We had few different people hosting the show, and it was, credit to everybody who just is able to keep things moving and kind of have no choice. Like David said, like with the news, it's always kind of breaking. That's sort of the default that we work with. And if you even look back how the show has operated, going back to even like with COVID and everything, figuring out how to make the show in Trevor's apartment and all that stuff. That's just always been what the people at the show do to, working with, going back into a studio, going to guest host now. It's just like David likes it, but I could use a little boredom sometimes, to be honest. You know what I mean, we know how to do non-boredom, but boredom's not bad for, here and there.
Now and again, I mean.
Yeah.
Now coming up with less than 100 days before the presidential election, like, what's the intensity level? What's the mood like on the show going into it? Is there a lot of excitement, a lot of trepidation, because obviously this is not, just a comedy show, but we're talking about the future of the United States. Like, what is the mood like on set? Desi?
Oh man, this is our bread and butter, baby. This is when we click into high gear. We Daily Show has always tackled election seasons. Like, this is the stuff that we live for. And I think going into this election season, there was a sort of mood. I mean, obviously it was so exciting having John back and hearing his voice again and him sort of leading the charge. But as far as the two candidates go, I think America sort of overwhelmingly was a little lackluster and a little disappointed. And now the race has certainly been shaken up a little bit, which is, I think, exciting for the country and definitely exciting for us. So yeah, I feel like we have really great momentum right now from both internally at the show, coming off of riding the high of the Emmy win in January and John coming back and now clicking into election season. And now the news is sort of following suit. So we're excited.
Brittany?
Yeah, I mean, I'm personally so excited. We're going to be heading to Chicago pretty soon to do the DNC, and it's going to be so great. We're going to be on the ground at the conventions. There's always so much energy when you're there and you're seeing democracy in action and you're seeing the process and you're seeing the whole team, like, doing what we've been working toward for the past, I don't know, 3.5 years at this point. So yeah, it's an overall sense of excitement. It's also really cool. I love that the Daily Show not only is doing content about the election, but we also get to engage with the community a little bit. We get to partner with Headcount, which is a voter registration organization that we've had a lot of success with in the past. And so we have another partnership with them to get people registered to vote. So it's not just, us talking at our audience, it's engaging with our audience. We're really excited. Shout out to our Daily Show Dogs account. Starting with John, we've had dogs at the show for God knows how many years. And we have a really exciting opportunity to partner with Headcount voter registration and also local animal shelters and try to get dogs adopted. We'll be doing that in Chicago. We're really excited about that. So, yeah, I guess it's personally, it's cool for me because we'll be on the ground, we'll be covering the news, and our audiences get to, feel like they're really a part of it as well.
Cathy?
Yeah, this will be my first year here when we're in the office, not at home during the pandemic, for the upcoming election. So it's just a very exciting time. Excited to see what else is happening. Already historical things have happened with Kamala coming onto the ticket and Biden dropping out. And as far as editing goes, we've got some more biofilms coming up the next few weeks. So keep an eye out. We'll be hitting up some of our favorite people we're seeing in the news recently. So.
And David Kibuuka?
Sorry, I'm looking forward to it because, as I say, I like the exciting part. And the part that because I'm from South Africa, so the madness is sort of like reminds me of a bit of home. And the part that I'm looking forward to is how we can top it. Because, like the whole time you're like, there is no possible way that this can be topped, if that makes any sense. Like someone tries to kill the former president, and you're like, surely there's no way that this can be topped. Then Biden drops out, you know, that kind of thing. So I'm really looking forward to how we ride up all the adventure that is left in these last, how many months? 3 months to go, that the Daily Show is going to be enjoying and milking.
Well, I want to congratulate all of you on your Emmy nominations, and you know, best of luck with these, you know, next few months before the election and beyond. You know, whether they are, you know, smooth sailing from here, or whether there are something happening while we're recording this right now that you guys have to get on top of. So you know, best of luck with all that. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
having
Daniel.
us.
What a
Nice
treat.
chatting with you.
Thank you.